Okay, so the next person we have is Katie M from Bloomin Buds Theatre. I've been trying to get Katie on for a while, but she's just had a baby. So life's mad for her at the minute because she's still doing her creative work and looking after a newborn and whatever else she has to do in life. So bless her. We pre-recorded this earlier on. So let me bring up our Katie.
Hello, my name's Katie Mann and I'm the Artistic Director of Bloomin Buds Theatre Company. I'm recording these questions for Tanya's show. It's a pleasure to be asked to be on it. So how am I coping under lockdown? It's very, very challenging. It's very difficult to not have family around physically. It's very difficult to keep working and try to be creative and enthusiastic when everything feels like it's very restricted and limited. But it is what it is, and everyone's in some sort of similar situation. Obviously, I don't want to say the same boat because people will have it very different. But we're all having to cope with lockdown. So Bloomin Buds, what we do is we aim to increase access to opportunity and to the arts for lower and working class communities. We do this by running sessions in community centres, schools, youth centres. We run workshops in other community settings as well. We've worked in colleges and for organisations working with groups of vulnerable people. And we also make professional verbatim theatre pieces that are all about working class narratives. And we do one-off events like exhibitions and installations and festivals and things like that. So how has being an artist from Bradford shaped my work? I feel like when you're from Bradford, it definitely gives you some sort of extra special spirit about the place. It definitely infuses through what you do as an artist, I feel anyway, because of the spirit of Bradford and how everyone pulls together. And I think that Bradford for a long time has not been fully funded enough in arts and cultural industries, but also in general, and I think hopefully that's starting to change now. There's lots of creative activity going on, lots of big initiatives like Bradford Bid and things like that, the LEAP Consortium, things like that Bloomin Buds are involved in, that are starting to make changes. Also, I always go back to the postcode thing. So if you're from Bradford, it's quite common to say what postcode you're from, and even though you don't really know sometimes what that area is, the name of it, you kind of get a vibe for what kind of area it is anyway. We just know places by postcode. That's a bit of a Bradford thing. And I think there's a lot of DIY theatre and creative and cultural activity going on, a lot of just get on and do it kind of attitude, which I think is really important when you're working in the arts, and I think it's really, really present in Bradford, and I love that. What challenges have I faced from being from a northern working class background? Well, I'm from an estate called Thorpe Edge in Bradford, and I'm the first in my family to go to university. I've now got a degree in theatre and performance in industry, and I've also got a master's in applied theatre and intervention. So I came from a very working class background to studying in a very middle class background, and it was a huge, huge challenge to adjust to that. Very, very different. I felt very isolated and alienated at times because the sort of tradition is that when you're from a working class background, if you go to uni, you kind of leave where you're from and sort of sell out on your roots. And I feel like I've done, hopefully, a really good job of not doing that and coming back and working in the area that I'm from. And I feel like being at uni and being working class, you are seen as a poor relation a lot of the time. A lot of people just don't understand that people have less than them and just don't understand a different way of life to what they've got because they've never seen it or experienced it before. So it's challenging to deal with that. And obviously when you're at university and people have more money and they've got more access to things like network and they can travel more easily, they can, they don't have to worry about their own financial situation because their parents can financially support them, then it's really challenging to connect with those people sometimes because obviously I have never had those privileges. But on the other hand, I've also met some people that do have those privileges that are really lovely and have become friends for life. So I feel like it's also about challenging yourself and your perceptions. In terms of being northern, I feel like it's probably more my accent. So a lot of people assume he's stupid because of how we speak. And obviously, sometimes when you're in different situations, you're made to feel like you should articulate what you're saying in a better way or pronounce things in a better way. But sometimes I find myself being defiant and just really bigging up my Bradford Yorkshire accent because it's who I am, and if people can't understand that I am intelligent and can do my job while sounding like this, then it often leads to me trying to prove that point through over-exaggerating my accent. Or, well, not over-exaggerating, but making sure I definitely don't try and dumb it down. And I just think there's less funding in the north for the arts and cultural industries. Obviously there's more competition in London, so I do think there is pros and cons about like being in the north and the south and working in the arts. There's less funding in the north, but then there's less of us. So it's kind of learning how to adapt to your surroundings and make the most of that, and just celebrating who you are and where you come from and how can that inform the work that you make. I always think like your unique selling points, for the sake of using a bit of a cliche, that you know, you are who you are, no one else can do what you can do quite like you do it because of your experiences. So it's I definitely draw upon being working class, being from Bradford, being northern. They are part of my selling points. My dream production or piece of work, if quarantine and money were an option. We've got 2 projects in the pipeline at the moment that we'd really like to pursue and make into really big theatre productions. And that is one about working class access to mental health services and how can creativity help people's mental health and well-being. And so we're exploring creativity and sort of in relation to well-being. And I think obviously the lockdown is very difficult for a lot of people, but it is also causing people to become more creative because they do have more time on their hands and they do have more need to want to be able to cope with what's going on. So I think it's going to be a really positive time in terms of people producing really rich creative content, but also it is really restrictive because we can only do so much from our living rooms basically. And obviously funding. It's always really competitive and it's really difficult to get big amounts of money to really make a high quality piece of theatre, which I always say is not necessarily the only answer to making a good high quality piece of theatre, like lots of money, but it certainly does help. And also I've been documenting the lockdown as much as I can with a diary, and also saving newspaper articles, saving the letters that come through my door, and documenting it as much as I can so that hopefully we'll make a huge theatre piece about the class inequality that has taken precedent in this lockdown with how the government have dealt with it. Obviously, you know, I wouldn't like to be the Prime Minister. I wouldn't like to be someone responsible for leading a country through a pandemic. However, I do feel like some really poor decisions have been made, and as an artist right now who's entitled to no financial support, surrounded by lots of family members that are in exactly the same boat, it is a very scary time, and right now we're okay, but who knows what the future will hold depending on how far and long this lockdown lasts and the poor quality of care for people that need it, basically. And I really do think theatre is a way, as a form of protest, to make change about this in the future. And I will definitely be pursuing that once I'm able to. But for the moment, I'm just documenting things as much as I can. Moving to digital, I think definitely we've had to adapt fast. And I knew that in the first instance, before the official lockdown was even announced, that if we were to survive, we need to change the way that we're doing things ASAP. So my initial reaction was to just give out all of the arts and crafts materials that we had in storage to the people, the participants that would usually come to our weekly sessions, because everything did move online very quickly. I myself, I'm good with a computer and things like that. Obviously I run a company, but I'm not very technical when it comes to like editing videos and accessing things online and making accounts for this, that and the other. It's all a bit above my head, and I try and limit what I need to do with that as much as possible. And that's someone with a degree and a master's that's managed to get through that and still isn't very good at editing videos and things like that. So I think obviously you need the skills, and for those that did have the skills, it's very easy to move things online, but if you don't, it's very challenging, and then you're already on the back burner, you're already chasing your tail because other people being able to do it quickly. I feel like online there's just a saturation of content, so many things to watch, so many things to take part in, which is fab, but also quite overwhelming, and you do reach a point of, I can't read another email, I can't see another yoga class online or whatever. Also, you know, people in lockdown, if you've got a huge house or a huge garden or a really nice big space, and you might have a yoga mat at home already, or you might have, you know, somewhere that you can do exercise or live close to a big green space. You might already have exercise equipment or a bike or whatever. You know, some of the families that we work with, they don't have computers, they don't have internet access, they don't have enough money to buy things like arts and crafts materials, they don't have enough money to have a printer in the home or ink. Really simple things that I think have massively been taken for granted by all of us, really, that, you know, everyone quickly jumped to being online, and then a week down the line or 2 weeks down the line was like, oh, hang on a minute, not everyone can access this. You know, if you're in a house with 5 children, you might not have the space or the mental space to do a yoga class or a dance class or whatever it may be. You also, if you're working from home and then trying to homeschool children, there's been huge pressure around homeschooling. There's a huge pressure on artists to be productive. What does productivity even look like and feel like in these times? There's a huge pressure to look after your own well-being. I keep being told, relax, have a rest, take it easy. And I feel like that's exactly what I can't do right now, because financially we're struggling and we've got to work and act fast. So it's really, really difficult, and I think it does come with so many barriers, and I think they definitely all need to be taken into consideration, and hopefully if it does go on for a really long, prolonged period of time, that people can consider this and try and make it as friendly as possible for people that can't access online things. So what we have done is, like I said, we've distributed all of our arts and crafts materials to our participants, but then we just had a few left over, so I started putting them in bags. I put it on Facebook for people in the local area to request one, and the demand absolutely exploded. Being contacted by loads of people with children with learning disabilities, and they were struggling to keep them entertained inside. Families that have got no financial support, parents without wages, things like that. And then we've had some small grants. So we've had a grant from Bradford Council, the Response Grant, and then they've given us further funding. So we've now produced over 1,000 arts and crafts packs. I think we're somewhere within the region of 1,500 at the moment for families across Bradford. They've just got an assorted range of things inside, and they're just hopefully really light-hearted, easygoing task for the children to do. There's no pressure on the parents to create anything spectacular or huge, just something to keep them busy. And, if they have got photographs, we have been receiving them to share them, but it's not a prescribed thing. It's just there to help. And I think for the arts and cultural scene now, definitely, we need more support as freelancers that don't have financial support, and we don't have the infrastructure to furlough ourselves. It's really difficult, and organisations are being fast to act, and I think that's good. There's lots of things to apply for, but that takes up a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of the applications are asking us what creative things do we want to work on. And again, that puts a huge pressure on artists to be productive, or for that productivity to look a certain way. And obviously, we have to work for our money. We have to work from home, like anyone else in any other job. But I feel like there needs to be a little bit more support about like what creativity looks like right now and what kind of outcomes artists are realistically going to be able to produce from their own home, depending on what access to resources they've got. I know that some organisations have got funds to buy equipment and things like that, which is really good. But it's a huge thing to get your head around, even when the support is out there, and sort of figure out what you need to apply for and what's coming from where. And I think hopefully it'll be a really positive time for lots of change. You know, already I'm feeling like in the past I might have been a little bit anxious to attend classes of things I've never tried before. However, if it was possible to attend a Zoom version whilst the live class was going on, so after lockdown, the live class is going on at the workshop, but then there's also a Zoom option to just have a nosy at what goes on, and then that might encourage people to go the next time. So I'm already thinking about how can what's happening right now enhance accessibility and inclusivity once lockdown is over with, and what can we learn from this time about how we've had to change and adapt really fast, and the content that is being made in whatever way, shape or form, how will that sort of present itself once the lockdown's over with, and how can I support other people that don't have opportunity to be a part of that conversation and to contribute to that, whether that's other small creative businesses, other freelancers, people in the community that want to try something creative that have never had the chance but now they've got the time. So it's definitely a big period of change. I'm really excited about it, but it is also really challenging, and I think there needs to be more conversation around just how challenging that is, because it is putting a lot of pressure on artists. And obviously we just all have to support each other and help each other, and I am very humbled by that support from other artists, just chatting to each other and sharing things. And there is a WhatsApp group for Bradford artists, which has been an absolute lifeline, and things like that really have helped, and I think hopefully those kind of things can continue as well. Obviously there's lots of organisations that I know I feel I can just knock on the door, send an email, say hiya, like, can I have a chat? But that WhatsApp group has been really, really helpful, because you feel like you're still part of a community and there's lots of people sharing ideas and helping each other out. And it has made me feel more united in that sense. So yeah, I hope that's okay. Thank you very much for having me, and I look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you, bye.
Thank you, Katie, for that wonderful interview. Katie bringing up some really important points there, particularly around access and people with SEND needs. We cannot forget about the most vulnerable at a time like this. You can follow her at Bloomin Buds Theatre on Facebook, on Twitter, on